Let's jump right into this explainer. Forget the standard intro today, because we're diving straight into a piece of history that is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about the golden age of piracy.
Seriously, when you hear the word pirate, your brain probably goes straight to guys like Blackbeard, Captain Kidd, or maybe Jack Sparrow, right? But here's the wild thing. The absolute most successful pirate in all of human history, it wasn't a bearded guy sailing the Caribbean. It was actually a woman from 19th century China named Qing Shi. And she didn't just break the law. She literally fought global empires and won.
I want you to picture the number 80,000. 80,000. That is the sheer, staggering number of ruthless pirates under Qing Shi's absolute, unquestioned control at the peak of her power. To put that into perspective for a second, that is essentially a criminal enterprise the size of a modern, mid-sized city, and every single one of them looked to one person for their marching orders.
And to move that massive army around, she commanded over 1,500 ships. Her fleet was, quite literally, larger than the navies of most independent countries combined. So we aren't talking about some ragtag group of thieves on a few leaky boats here. We are talking about an unprecedented maritime superpower that absolutely dominated the ocean.
Section 1. The Aggressive Prenup.
So, how did she pull this off? Well, her rise reads less like a pirate tale and more like a brilliant, cutthroat corporate takeover. The story kicks off in 1801 in the floating brothels of Canton. Qing Shi was working as a sex worker when her sharp intellect and fierce reputation caught the attention of Zheng Yi. He was a notoriously powerful pirate commander and he wanted to marry her. But Qing Shi, she wasn't about to be some traditional trophy wife. No way. She agreed to the marriage, but only if he signed a super aggressive prenup. She demanded a straight 50% share of all his wealth and co-command of his huge pirate armada, which was known as the Red Flag Fleet. He actually agreed, and together they rapidly expanded their empire. But then disaster struck. In 1807, Zheng Yi suddenly died in a typhoon.
Now, according to the laws and customs of that time, she should have been completely pushed aside. But instead, Qing Shi pulled off a total masterclass in political maneuvering. She wasted no time and quickly secured the absolute loyalty of her late husband's top commander. Through sheer tactical genius, she seized total, undisputed control of the Red Flag Fleet. Just like that, she was effectively the sole CEO of the largest criminal enterprise on Earth. It's honestly a brilliant lesson in navigating a power vacuum. She didn't wait around for permission to lead, she just consolidated her power immediately and definitively.
Section 2. The Code of Blood.
As you can imagine, managing a massive enterprise of actual cutthroats requires a very specific, iron-fisted management style. She brought in a brutally strict military code that transformed her massive fleet from a chaotic mob into a highly disciplined naval force. Check this out. Disobeying a direct order from her? Immediate beheading. Stealing from the communal treasure chest? Immediate beheading. And what if you deserted the fleet? Well, if you tried to run, you'd have your ears cut off and you'd be paraded around the ships as a really gruesome warning to everyone else.
Operating under this iron fist, the Red Flag Fleet functioned essentially as its own floating nation. And they had a ruthlessly efficient, almost binary tax system for coastal villages. It was incredibly simple. Step 1, you pay the protection fee and you are perfectly safe. Step 2, you refuse to pay and your town gets burned to the ground. Brutal? Absolutely, but incredibly effective. This rigid structure is exactly what allowed her to scale her operations so flawlessly.
Section 3. The Unbeatable Armada.
Of course, you can't just extort entire coastlines without attracting some high-level attention. By 1808, the Chinese emperor had officially had enough. He sent his mighty imperial armada to wipe her off the map once and for all. But things didn't exactly go as the emperor planned, because instead of being destroyed, Qing Shi completely decimated his forces.
And here's where her tactical brilliance really shines. After defeating the imperial fleet, she captured their ships and gave the surviving imperial sailors a very stark choice: join the Red Flag Fleet or die. Faced with that option, the vast majority chose to join her. So she effectively swelled her own ranks using the exact same soldiers the emperor had just sent to defeat her.
Getting desperate, the Chinese emperor had to call in outside help. Realizing he couldn't win with his own navy, he assembled this desperate coalition, bringing in the Portuguese Navy and the British East India Company. Think about that for a second. He had to enlist 3 of the era's greatest global naval superpowers just to try and stop one single woman.
But Qingxi didn't even flinch. She engaged these massive, heavily armed European warships and completely outmaneuvered them. She defeated 3 global empires at the exact same time, forcing them into these highly embarrassing retreats. With this massive victory, she wasn't just a pirate anymore. She was officially untouchable.
Section 4. A legendary checkmate. Now this final act is truly unparalleled in the history of outlaws. Let's slow down for a second because this is wild. By 1810, the emperor realized he absolutely could not win by force, so he offered a deal. In a brilliantly calculated move of pure leverage, Qingxi sailed directly to Canton. She walked right into the government office, deep into enemy territory, completely unarmed, and sat down to negotiate her own surrender. And her demands were outrageous. First, she demanded full amnesty for all 80,000 of her pirates. Second, they had to be allowed to keep every single coin of their stolen loot. And third, her top commanders had to be given high-ranking military jobs in the emperor's very own navy. And because she was negotiating from a position of absolute strength, the emperor literally had no choice but to agree to every single one.
So how did it end? Qingxi retired as a wildly wealthy free woman. She opened a highly successful gambling house and died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 69. It is such a staggering contrast to the violent ends of Western pirates who were almost all hunted down and killed. She won because she knew exactly when she had maxed out her leverage, and she knew exactly when to cash out, completely cementing her legacy as a master tactician.
She was the undisputed queen of the seas, enjoying a luxury that almost no other outlaw in history ever got to experience. Her story really proves that sometimes historical reality is far more fascinating than any fiction we could invent. So, it leaves us with a fun question to ponder. How many other brilliant tacticians and master negotiators has history overlooked simply because they didn't fit the traditional mold? Let us know which historical badass we should cover next. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next explainer.